Jason, I hate to break it to you. When I hit record, I think it muted you.
Yes. Okay. All right. I think I've got the camera and the mic back on. Am I coming through?
You are. Yes.
Marvelous. All right. What would a virtual meeting be without a few technical difficulties? But here we are. So good evening. My name is Jason Bortz with VRE. I'm the project manager for the Alexandria Station and King Street and Commonwealth Avenue Bridge Replacement Project. I'm going to walk you through, Lindsay, if you can go to the next slide. So walk you through a little bit of what we're going to talk about this evening. I'm going to start with the project background, project benefits, and then I'm going to turn it over to Jason Scofie with GFT, who is our construction management team who's handling the project. And he'll walk you through a little bit more of the particulars of how exactly the upcoming work will be performed and exactly why it is sequenced the way that it is. So starting with an overview of the project, we have an overview sheet here that is really is not meant to show all the details, but just to give you sort of a lay of the land. Towards the right-hand side, there are two large green areas. Those are the existing rail structures, one over Commonwealth Avenue, one over King Street, and both of those structures are ultimately going to be replaced as part of this project. Within the station footprint, there's a couple different colors, but really the light blue and the purple are platform work. We're going to be working on the platforms, bringing them up to 8 inches above top of rail where they should be. If you've ridden from this station, you've seen the yellow step boxes. Those are out there because the platforms are too low. In the yellow, kind of in the center there, that's the at-grade crossing that allows you to walk between platforms. We will actually be removing that and placing a fence between those tracks. It's a safety issue, and in order to accommodate that, we'll be adding more towards the right-hand end of the platform, the pink boxes, which are elevators. We'll be putting in 2 new elevators to provide access between the pedestrian tunnel and the platforms. If you've been out there, that pedestrian tunnel is a little undersized. It's got some infiltration problems. So we will actually be replacing that tunnel in full. So just to kind of give you a sense of what we're working here towards. That's kind of an overview of the project. If we can go to the next slide there, Lindsay. Appreciate that. So with that said, right, overall project benefits are enhanced safety at the station with removal of that crossing, enhanced ADA accessibility with the elevators. You can actually see in the photo here on the top right, kind of the open nature of these existing rail structures. The new structures will have a solid bottom ballast deck bridge. So there will not be open to above as they are now. So less risk for anything to come down through the structure than there is right now. Ultimately, they will have improved clearance over the roadway. There's a history of these bridges getting struck by box trucks and things like that, which clogs up the roadway as well as the railroad. We can't run trains when that happens until we get somebody to come out and actually re-inspect the bridge. So these structures are about 120 years old. So they've reached that point in their life cycle where it's more effective to actually replace them than to continue to try to do extensive repair on them. So we are scheduling this work, sequencing this work in order to try to minimize impacts to the surrounding community and want to go through where we are going to have those impacts, particularly the impacts coming up in the near future. So we can go to the next slide, please. And this is a brief image of approximately the gained area underneath the structure of both structures. Ultimately, the bridges will be wider. So the city is actually following on with a streetscape project that is currently in design to kind of take advantage of that additional square footage. We will not be doing that directly as part of our project. but the city, we are in close coordination with the city, sharing elements of our design in order to make sure that they are able to follow on as shortly thereafter as possible, because the limits simply of any additional sidewalk or anything like that go far beyond just the footprint of the bridges in the station. All right, next slide. And this is just kind of a brief overview of the major players here that are involved. VRE is ultimately administering the project. We are in close coordination with the city of Alexandria, who actually owns the property that the station building is located on, and VPRA, who is owns part of the railroad corridor, as well as CSX, who owns the other portion of it, and Amtrak, who, like us, operates on the corridor. As far as the actual project team, specifically, HDR is the designer of record. GFT is the construction manager. They're the ones performing all of the oversight and the inspection of the construction. And Kokosing Construction Company is the contractor constructing the project. The next slide, and I will turn it over to Jason Scofie from GFT.
Thank you, Jason. As discussed, my name is Jason Scofie with GFT, performing the construction management services on the project. I'm here to talk to you about the work that's already been ongoing and the work that's coming in the pipeline here. So if you guys have been past the station in the past few weeks, you've seen a couple of different cranes out there. There's 3 cranes total, and they'll be there for the duration of the project. For the past week and a half, we've begun our supportive excavation items on the project, which you can see in the photo to the right. And that includes sheet pile driving, involves driving sheets of metal to temporarily hold back the soil and allow us to build the new bridge foundations. So a bunch of those sheets will be driven, and then that allows us to excavate down and build the new foundations adjacent to the existing foundations. The photo on the bottom left is a noise and vibration monitoring system. There's 2 of those on the site, and they monitor noise and vibration from the activities to make sure that everything's being performed properly and not affecting nearby. Next slide. This photo is just an example photo of what the jump spans will look like. So it's not the actual project yet. But as I mentioned, the jump spans are temporary bridges supporting the rail, which enable us to build a new bridge foundation behind the existing foundations away from the road. So that allows us to separate the activities from the public right-of-way. And that's also what gives you that wider span at the end of the project, where especially on Commonwealth, where it's very tight for pedestrians, that narrow sidewalk. At the end, we'll have a lot more room there. Like as Jason mentioned, the city of Alexandria is going to be doing sidewalks on that side to help with the flow of pedestrians in the area. Next slide. Okay, the big elephant in the room, so to speak, is the major events to be able to put those jump spans in and install the jump spans. They require dedicated track outages. So we'll work on one track at a time, and allows us to keep the train traffic running on the adjacent tracks. Unfortunately, it does require road closures, which I'll get into on the next slide. We just wanted to highlight here that the first weekend starts at 7 p.m. And then the following 2 weekends, May 15th and May 29th weekends, those start at Friday at 7 a.m. So a little bit different as you get into the second and third weekends are a little more complex and require some more time to perform the work. The plan is to be done with the road closures by Monday nights at 10 p.m. And then CSX comes in and they have to restore the track work in the area. So that's where their work comes into play. Next slide. So as I mentioned, the traffic impacts, and then on the following slide, we have a map to kind of highlight it for you. But so King Street will be fully closed between Russell Road and Dangerfield Road. And so all the traffic detours down to Duke Street. And then the other Commonwealth Avenue, that will remain open with a single travel lane, alternating traffic directed by flaggers. So it'll be one lane, bring traffic through, and then flag and bring traffic back the other way. And then as far as sidewalk impacts go, so Sidewalks under King Street will be closed for the duration of that weekend work. The Commonwealth Avenue sidewalk will be opened. The other thing, if you've been to the site recently, there was a small sidewalk that went from King Street to the station tunnel. That is currently closed where the big crane is sitting. So you just detour and take the ramp adjacent to it. And then the slightly more impactful item, unfortunately, is the stairs from the east platform down to King Street, which many people use to get the metro. That will be closed starting on May 15th. Just because that's where we have to dig down and build those new bridge foundations in that area. Next slide. So this is just highlighting, was just speaking to of King Street being closed to road traffic. You can see Sunset is still open and allows people to drive through there and make a right to get out to Callahan and Russell. But all the traffic will be moving down towards Duke Street. So that'll be your main detour. Next slide. I think I got a slightly enlarged version here, a little bit larger. Just kind of see the details. So the yellow is the lane reductions. So you'll see cones that kind of funnel people down to single lanes on the highlighted yellow areas. For community outreach, we have a dedicated project website for the project, a dedicated project email address. If you have any questions, please reach out to us, and myself and Lindsay and Jason all review those and respond to those. And we post a newsletter to the project website as well. And then we have those little, you can see in the photo there, these business cards that we have set up with the email address and project website, a little QR code to navigate to there, and then a rendering of the 2 elevators at the station. We've been to another Meet the Management session that VRE held about a month ago, and they have an upcoming one on April 29th from 3 to 7 p.m. and that'll be held on the Alexandria station platform. And then we'll also be attending the Rosemont Community Association meeting on Thursday, May 14th. Next slide. And then just before I forget, there is some work that you might see or hear at night, particularly this week. And I am aware that CSX is performing some track maintenance work right in this exact area. I think they're replacing a rail, so that's their typical maintenance work. So it's not related to this project, but just them performing maintenance in the area. So if that work is separate from our work.
All right, and thank you both, Jasons. Now we'll open it up to questions. I know we've got a few in the chat. If you joined us late, as a reminder, you can access the Q&A or the chat function. We will try to get everybody covered. If we can't, we will follow up after the fact. So our first one I want to take is Stephanie Jones. Thank you for your email, Ms. Jones. She is wondering about the blowing of the train horns at the current at-grade pedestrian crossing. Can either of you speak to if the crossing will be replaced with an overpass or underpass? And if so, does that result in any changes to the practice of blowing horns?
Yeah, I could speak to that. Yeah, so ultimately the crossing is removed, and we reroute and we put a fence in between the 2 tracks, just a short fence to discourage people from crossing the tracks. That ultimately makes the pedestrian tunnel, which we'll be replacing as part of the project, and the elevators that provide that vertical circulation between the platform level and the tunnel level, makes that the primary route back and forth between the platforms. As far as the horn blowing, unfortunately, that doesn't help with that. So you are absolutely correct about federal regulations governing the blowing the horn with respect to coming up to at-grade crossings. However, very similar operating rules apply to actually approaching the platform. Because passenger platforms are naturally likely to have passengers standing on them, people standing on them. And as we know, people tend to stand far too close to the edge. So it is standard practice to blow horns on the approach to the platforms as well. So unfortunately, this will not do anything as far as modifying that, short of a change to federal guidelines and CSX operating rules. And I see actually somebody posted about why is Crystal City exempted from horn blowing. Crystal City is not exempted from horn blowing. What they have there is a essentially outside of passenger operating hours, which is limited, and more so limited here at Alexandria because it's both VRE and Amtrak. So Amtrak has much more expansive operating hours. They have a kind of a carve out that says if the how did they phrase it? Basically, if the conductor doesn't see anybody on the platform, it's kind of to their discretion. But if they do see anybody or think they see anybody, that they will still blow it. So most stations typically operate under a similar paradigm. It's also noteworthy that at Crystal City, only one of the 3 existing tracks actually has a boarding edge next to it. In this situation, all 3 tracks have a platform immediately adjacent to them. So it is just a kind of it's a different situation from an operational standpoint.
Thank you, Jason. I'm going to throw one at you from Michael. His question does also link back to the horn blowing, which, Michael, I hope that we've covered. But he also had a general question about the safety of the platform. And I do want to give us an opportunity to kind of expand more upon that, because I think that's a big part of this project so do you mind sharing a bit about kind of those critical safety upgrades that we'll be doing at the station itself?
Yeah, and bear with me. I'm just going to take just a half a second here just to read the comment, so it's just a little easier for me to process that way. Changes planned to the train platform, so enhancements to safety. Can this make it possible to give not sound the horn at the approach station? Yeah. So ultimately, as far as the latter portion about it impacting the train horns, unfortunately, that's captured in my prior response. That is a no. As far as the overall safety, we are, like I said, putting that. If you've been out to the platform, you know a couple of fundamental things. One is we have the yellow step boxes everywhere because the platforms are far too low. So a lot of people are taking big steps to try to get on the trains. So we're fixing that, bringing the platforms up where they should be. So that's a safety improvement. We are removing the at-grade crossing and installing the fence. You'd be amazed how many people are kind of walk around the barriers at the at-grade crossing, or simply ignore the at-grade crossing and walk across the tracks to get between the platform edges. It's just a very unsafe condition. And as far as the area underneath the bridges as well, ultimately we'll be making that that will be more safe with wider sidewalks and better lighting, and ultimately better protection from the train operations above, due to a new kind of it's a ballast decked bridge, but basically means it has a solid bottom. If you're somebody walking underneath it, it's not like right now where you can kind of see up between the rail ties.
Great. And David also had a question about impacts to Metro. I know Scofie answered that there will be no impacts to Metro. I did want to add that we are communicating with our Metro counterparts to ensure that particularly VRE riders crossing over Metro, using that walkway over into Metro, Amtrak, people using the station who would typically venture onto Metro, that we're sharing these details and working with them to figure out and how to best reach their riders with any of this critical information. So we've been in frequent communication with them.
Since we're talking transit, can I step in there as well? And that we are also in communication with Dash Bus and WMATA Bus as well. And those operations, while they will have detours for the routes that go underneath King Street, all routes will remain. The plan is to keep them running at the current level of service. They'll just be detoured using primarily Duke and Diagonal to get to the bus depot.
Yeah, the stops are effectively the same, just the path they take between the stops is marginally different.
Except that one stop that's right by the
Right by King.
right by King and the stop sidewalk leading to the train station.
Thank you, Mark. Another question I wanted to highlight was regarding overnight noise, which Lauren, thank you for responding to in the chat, but just want to make sure those of us on our phones also get the benefit of her answer. Overnight noise is expected to be very limited, and we're hopeful to avoid it entirely. Our work will go until 11 p.m., but we have limited to no operations from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. Of course, if you have any additional concerns, particularly around that, we have our Alexandria Station Improvements at VRE.org email, and we are happy to answer any additional questions about construction and noise.
So it looks like not sure if it looks like new question came in. Will pedestrians on Commonwealth be impeded the weekends when King Street is closed? No, the sidewalk at Commonwealth remains open, right? Lauren, I'm remembering that correctly, right? I know it's one side, but I believe it's the side with the sidewalk that remains clear.
Yeah, that's correct. The sidewalk will remain open underneath Commonwealth, and we will also have one lane open at Commonwealth, and it will be actively flagged during the day, but Commonwealth will be completely opened during the evening hours. Also, my name's Lauren. I'm with Kikosian Construction Company.
Appreciate you joining tonight, Lauren. Will the resulting added rail result in more train traffic? Ultimately, this is the station work here and the bridge work here is really oriented around replacing and improving upon the existing infrastructure. There is a separate but overlapping project, the Alexandria fourth track, that will ultimately allow for better separation of the passenger and freight traffic, which we envision will enhance the reliability of the corridor, but ultimately will add additional capacity for more trains over time.
And if I can jump in on that a little bit, Lindsay, as
Yep,
part of
please.
Mark Schnoffer, I'm with Virginia Passenger Rail Authority. And what that is, we mentioned earlier on that this is one project in a corridor, the whole corridor full of different rail enhancement projects and expansion projects. Our most predominant visual project that you'll see in the area, of course, is Long Bridge going over the Potomac River. And that's part of corridor improvements from DC's Union Station all the way down to Richmond. And part of the mission of our organization that was formed just 5 years ago is to really enhance that, because there is no more capacity on I-95, as we all know if we've ever driven that. So we want to enhance that opportunity, and by adding in a lot of places a fourth track where there's 3 tracks today and a third track where there's 2 tracks in other places, will give us more options for additional trains, especially Amtrak state-run trains, to get to and from DC and points beyond to the south and north, as well as VRE's long-range plan calls for not just having the commuter service that we see predominantly today with trains into DC in the morning and then out of DC in the evening, but to be able to expand that for bi-directional traffic, VRE traffic, as well as weekend service and even later service in the evening. So that's the overall goal of our program, and that's the ultimate outcome once all these projects for our phases 1 and 2 get completed, which is scheduled for 2030. Just this project itself is slated to be completed at the very end of 27 or at the latest very early 28. So the impacts directly here will not last to 2030, but along the corridor, we will be wrapping up at the end of 2030.
Mark, while we have you, Stephanie
Got
had
me
a
all night.
follow-up question regarding high-speed rail from Richmond to the DC area, and mentioned some environmental impact notices. Was that a VPRA study, DRPT, perhaps?
There was some studies on high-speed rail. Joe might know this a little bit better than I know he's got experience in this. It was something that was looked at probably in a little more detail about 10 years ago, I believe, maybe even more before that. More recently, especially in the 5 years that VPRA has existed, we've been focusing on expanding the capacity with conventional rail in the Virginia area. A lot of constraints to high-speed rail requires electrification and other design elements, especially straightening of tracks, things like those. Anybody that's ridden on European rail systems, those are all dedicated right-of-ways with relatively straight track alignments, which would really be kind of infeasible. So we're looking for a more near-term improvements, if you will, but we're not precluding the potential of adding high-speed rail down the road. But that is not the goal of the program at this time.
Thank you. And I did not want to pass over Edward's question as well. Jason, either of the Jasons, do we anticipate any delays to Amtrak or VRE trains while the jump spans are being installed?
So jump span, the majority of that work will be over the weekend. So VRE is not operating over the weekend, so that won't impact us on those dates. There is potential that it could have minor impacts to Amtrak, but the way we're approaching this and the reason that we're doing it over the course of three different weekends is that we're doing one track at a time, so that the other two tracks are in service. As you heard Mark reference, right, there are substantial portions of this corridor that have only two tracks. While this is an area that does have three, it is pretty common for the operations to be funneled through two tracks throughout this area. Now that said, as you saw on some of the dates, right, there are impacts to Fridays and to Mondays. What we are working through right now is the exact appropriate schedules to accommodate that. What we're anticipating on the VRE end is that we would likely run a reduced schedule on those particular Fridays and Mondays, and we specifically try to do those for the days that have the lowest vehicular traffic as well as the lowest VRE ridership, in order to try to minimize those impacts.
Great, thank you. We've got a question from Marjorie about we have people directing traffic at the King Callahan lights during the bridge shutdown, noting that the traffic backed up on King Street to the west would have trouble getting through the traffic lights. Would a detour around the Masonic Temple circle?
Yeah, I can take this one.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Lauren, I think
Jason.
you'd be the closest to that one.
Yeah, of course. So we are not going to have people actively directing traffic at King and Callahan. The light will still be active because it currently the four ways that it's already functioning, because people will be utilizing Sunset Drive as a detour to get over back to King and then over to Callahan from Commonwealth. So the lights should be functioning as normal. There will be pretty significant signage for detours. So our recommendation is, of course, to obey those signs. And if there's any confusion, we'll have people in the area, but we're not going to have people actually at the light directing traffic.
Okay. I don't see any more questions
No,
coming in,
no
but
more
if
questions.
anybody has some, happy to take any questions.
What I'm going to do right now, and hopefully most of you should have this email on hand at this point if you've received this invite, but I'm going to pop in our project email. If you have any follow-up questions, any concerns throughout the life of the project, please don't hesitate to reach us via this email, and we will address them as ASAP. Jason's coming in there. I will also add a link to our project page. There was a recommendation from one of our participants to add the street closure diagrams and other relevant information that we've discussed regarding that to this page. I think that's a great suggestion. We will certainly get some information up that has the specifics of these road closures. So thank you for that.
I can take
And-
Stephanie's question as
Great.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Stephanie asked to confirm, just want to be sure that she's understanding for the May 1st through the 4th, May 15th through the 18th, and May 29th through June 1st, Friday 7 p.m. to Monday 10 p.m. timeframes, Commonwealth under the bridge will be totally closed. So Commonwealth will remain partially open. So it'll remain open during our working hours, which are going to be 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. So Friday, we're working from 7 to 11, for example. So Commonwealth will be flagged with a single lane closure. And then from that 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. times, Commonwealth will be completely opened. And during the entirety of these weekend dates, the pedestrian access and the sidewalk underneath Commonwealth will remain open.
But King, once it's closed, will remain closed throughout the duration of the weekends,
That's correct.
both directions and all pedestrian traffic.
Yes, thank you for that clarification. Yep.
And then just to highlight again, the first weekend starts Friday at 7 p.m. and then the next 2 weekends start at 7 a.m.
All right, great. Well, hearing none. Oh, sorry, we've got one from Jamie now. Looking beyond June 1, how many more closures will there be?
There shouldn't be any significant closures like this for a number of months. The part of the reason that we're approaching the work in this way is that it actually allows us to do all of the new foundation work behind the existing foundations. So you'll certainly see a lot of construction vehicles going in and out of the site. But as far as actual closures, the next major closure would probably be when we replace the east span, which Lauren, I think is about April of next year. Is that about right? March, April?
I believe it might be a little bit earlier than that, but
But in that timeline, but we're still at
yes.
least, we're into 2027.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so we have at least 6-8 months before we'll have any further closures of this sort of nature.
Excellent. Well, thank you all so much for your really thoughtful questions. We are looking forward to delivering a really great project. We're excited about the future of rail in Virginia, what it means for VRE, Amtrak, really the whole corridor around here. So again, project email is in the chat above, as is the project website. This recording will be posted onto VRE's YouTube channel, and I will make sure to email that to everybody who registered for this meeting. So feel free to share that with anybody who wasn't able to join us this evening. With that, I think we will call it a meeting and wrap things up.
Okay. All right. Appreciate everybody
Okay.
joining.
Yeah. Thank you all. Take care.